What's going on, guys? Junior's Fishing Company with a little chatterbait today. I really haven't made a ton of chatterbait videos, and I don't know if I've done one with just deer hair. This isn't just going to be deer hair. I'm going to do a couple different materials, but what I'm going to do, this bait's going to end up being probably 5, maybe a little bit longer than that in inches. These chatterbaits have huge hooks, but they're not super long, and so you kind of have to be careful with adding too much at the back. But with how much these thump in the water, you definitely want something, and you'll see in just a sec, I'm going to use polar goat for the tail, just because I found that with how much these thump in the water, having a nice soft tail really helps with action. I'm going to do white, then I'm going to do 2 little white deer hair stacks. I'm going to add a little bit of flash, and then I've got this really cool, I don't know if it's going to really show in the camera, a really cool blue tail that I found. I think it's deep blue, and it's almost like a purplish blue. It's super, I haven't been excited about a tail in a long time. It's a really good tail too. Really cool color. I'm just gonna add just a little bit of this right at the end, just for kind of like a big blue collar. And so the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put my goat down, and I'm gonna put it right, I'm gonna actually put it on my hook. I'm not gonna put it on my lead, just because you really don't have a ton of room on that lead, and it's really thick. This lead, you have to add a lot of materials to kind of get it evenly distributed. So I'm just gonna set that down. Again, I just want this bait to be between 5 and 6 inches. I have found personally that you'd rather have a longer chatterbait than a shorter one, just because you end up fishing them so fast. Not like crazy fast, sometimes I'll fish them really fast, but you fish them faster than a lot of other baits. And so I've found that having them a little bit longer or a little bit bulkier kind of just helps add a bigger profile to those baits. So I'm just going to get this tied down real tight. This is just 210 Danvilles white. Just going to get that tied down nice and snug. Again, on my hook shank, I'm not on my lead yet. Just comb that out, make sure. Sometimes there's a lot of these shorter fibers in this natural material that you kind of have to play with. So that's going to be my little bit of my tail. I'm going to come up here, and I'm just going to put a little bit of a thread base down. I'm going to avoid, you can see I had to file down this bait keeper, skirt keeper, whatever you'd want to call it. I had to file that down, and it's not super even with the rest of the lead, and so you kind of have to be careful. You can file it down more, and it's just a little bit of a trickier thing to do. So I'm just going to skip that, and I'm just going to go right behind or in front of that little bump, just because I don't want my materials slipping. This is just going to be white, and I don't want this to go all the way down. I prefer some straighter bucktail on these. A lot of people really like the long wispy stuff for certain flies, but really on these you don't need to use your really good bucktail, and I really don't mind just this straight white stuff. It usually has a little bit more air in it. This shouldn't really have much air at all. I'm gonna get my comb and just comb this out. You can see this is just a really white bait. If I could only pick one color, I mean, all white is just, it just always does well. And so sometimes I'm gonna have that little bit of blue there. So I'm gonna just wrap this off, and on this thread is where I'm gonna put my flash. So I've just got, I don't know, maybe 8 strands. This is just holographic flashabou in silver. Just gonna kind of taper those out a little bit, and I kind of want to go pretty far down, almost all the way to the end of my bait. And I'm just going to tie that in. It's not going to be a ton of flash. And I can just wrap that, just push it on either side, comb it out. Doesn't have to be super duper even. You just want to remember that when you're fishing this, it's going to fish hook point up. So you just want to try and remember that. And I'll just kind of get this pushed back a little bit at a time. Looks like I'll have one side with a lot more flash, which is whatever. It won't matter. So I'll get that, and then I'll end up trimming some of this silver at the end, or maybe even after the video. I'll just trim some of it because I don't want the silver to be the longest part of this bait. And I'll come back and I'll grab my second stack. So I'll just come and measure this out just about the same size or length as my first stack. Just make sure my thread's corded up. I just want to make sure I have some room here at the end for my little blue collar. Just make sure that these are evened out. Give it 2 good wraps. There should be a little bit more flare in here. I got this a little bit lower in the tail. Comb it out. And I'm just gonna push that all the way around. And that with this white, this flash will be able to kind of see through that white. If I were to put black down, it would kind of hide all of that flash. But when this is wet, that white will it'll kind of shine through it a little bit. So you don't have to use as much flash on these white baits as you would. Just gonna get some of that air out of that hair. Just split it on either side. I don't want to break my thread though. So I'll come here and I'll just wrap this off nice and tight. Maybe I'll put some head cement down just for durability. Come up here, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab this. This is really good bucktail. I'll just get some of these shorter things out. But really, I don't even have to worry about the shorter hairs because I'm just gonna, you can see this is probably 3-inch plus bucktail, maybe even 4. But I'm just gonna use the first inch of these tips, and I might not even have enough here to really spin it as much, but it's just gonna be a little bit of a blue collar right on there. And so now I've got my little bit of blue. I'm using a ton of hair. This is so much hair because it's just the longer tips. And so I just am gonna measure this out just about 1 inch or so into that. And I can kind of trim off even a little bit more than what I had. And I'll probably have a ton of just really short hairs in there too. And I'll just bring it right here, and I'm going to end up trimming off this anyway, those tips. But I want to get that spun around. Make sure, hopefully I have enough, because the only reason I'm using so much is because I have so much ground to cover. So I gotta try and get all of it all the way around evenly. Slowly. Alright, so I'm getting that about as even as I can. I needed to trim this a little bit just to see where my lead bump ended. And I'm just gonna build a little bit of a collar here. It is just really thick. I'm gonna put down a ton of pressure. Then I'm just gonna come in here and just trim off this hair right by where that lead bump is. And I'll just come in maybe even more, and I'll trim a little bit more. And then I'm really just gonna wrap this off. I put a little bit of head cement down. This collar is gonna be a little bit bigger than I would prefer. And I don't know if I'm gonna spend the time wrapping all of this to get that blue get rid of the blue. So instead of spending too much more time wrapping on this, I'm just gonna whip finish. I don't put a ton of eyes on my chatterbaits, but I'm just gonna put some eyes on here just to kind of cover up. Just gonna do a couple half hitches because whip finishing with this blade, I don't really feel like doing it. So I just want to cover up some of this thread. And so I've just got some, I think these are 5/16 hareline 3D eyes in Super Pearl. And I'm just gonna put these, just gonna put a tiny bit of super glue, and I'm just gonna put it on the side just to cover up that thread, just because you want your bait to look as nice as you can. So then it'll just kind of take away some of that look with the big bulk. And then I'll come here, I'll grab my second one. I really like these 3D eyes. They're really, really good. So I'll just put this one on the other side, just to right by that lead bump. I'm not gonna go on my hair too much because I don't want to push it in either direction. I've got just a little bit of thread here. I don't want to hit any of my deer hair. So just a little bit, kind of like a little bait fish pattern, but I wanted a little hot spot, that little blue hot spot. And I think it's going to look really cool when it gets wet and all of this gets matted down. It's just going to have a blue, really dark head, and it's going to kind of transition back into that white with a little bit of flash. But I bought that tail, and that was one of the first things I thought of, is just using it kind of as a collar, because it's a really, really cool blue. Junior's Fishing Company. Like and subscribe, drop some comments below. A lot of deer hair, jigs, chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, castable flies. We'll see you on the next one.